Wow. So I'm going to tell you a story you know already, but don't worry, I'm going to go fast. So there's this rich guy. He's got 2 sons. Already sounding familiar, right? And the younger son says, you know what, Dad? I've done the math, and I've decided that I want my share of your inheritance, no offense, now. Because I'm going to go. I got plans. I got big ideas. There's stuff that I want to do that you can't be any part of, so, pay up. Let's go. You know the story, right? So the younger son takes his money, the dad gives it to him, and he goes and he does the thing. And in fact, it sounds like he kind of does all the things. In my imagination, he goes to the biblical equivalent of Las Vegas. And as you might imagine, quickly blows through all the money. The friends that he thought he had because of the money kind of fade away, and things go the way that we might imagine they go. And like I said, you know the story, so I don't need to belabor the point. Gets to the point where the youngest son is living with the pigs because there's no place for him to go. He doesn't have rent money, and eating what the pigs eat, the husks of the corn. And something happens after enough suffering. And maybe you know what that feels like. Have you ever get to that place where okay, I've had enough suffering, I get it. And the youngest son has that I get it moment, and he goes, you know what, I'm going home. And he goes home, and there's his dad, and there's his older brother. And his dad says, oh, you're finally back. Let's have a party. Pull out all the stops. I'm paraphrasing. And so they have a party, and everything's okay, and he's back. And everybody's happy, except perhaps for the older brother, who's a little bit ticked off because the older brother says, hey, I've been here the whole time. Remember me? Holding down the fort? What's up? Dad? You ever had that prayer? And the father says, but you've been here the whole time. You've been in the nice house the whole time. You've been a recipient, an active participant in this loving relationship the whole time. What's your problem? We'll talk about what all that means in just a moment, but I want to tell you first that this is an important story, even though you know the story. We've all heard it, whether or not you went to Sunday school. You've heard some version of this story because this is, in a way, the universal story. In a way, this is the whole story of the Bible, for example, compressed down into a nice bite-sized chunk. But more importantly than that, this is your story. This is my story. This is our story. You and I are every character in that cast of characters. You and I know what it feels like to want something and not be so happy once we got it. You and I know what it feels like to get to the bottom of the barrel and go, oh, wow, you know what? This is not it. You and I know what it feels like to suffer enough. So we are experts on this story of the prodigal son. And so as experts, I have a question for you. The older brother, because you're him too, is he any fun? That's the important thing, man, because I got to tell you, there's a lot of definitions of prosperity. There's a lot of definitions of this is what it is to live the spiritual life, to make it in whatever way. But I think the best definition is, are you any fun? Other stuff comes and goes. Are you any fun? Because by outer appearances, the older brother is prospering. He's got the nice house. He's got everything he wants. Daddy's picking up the tab consistently. He's cool. He's prospering. And yet he's the only person in the whole story who's bummed out. So what is prosperity? This becomes an important question. And part of the reason that this prodigal son story is so important is both brothers start out trying to use the rules to their advantage. The older brother says, yeah, I'm using the rules. What's wrong? The younger brother, the one who takes off, says, let me use these rules to my advantage and get myself in a lot of trouble. But both of them are missing the point. Because the prodigal son story is a story about moving past rules and into something more like a relationship, something more like a realization, something more like a journey. Because the rules are not important. Your journey is important. Your relationship is important. And I know that because this is a relationship that everybody wants. Everybody wants to have a relationship with the source of good, the source of money. You want to pay the bills? That's awesome. The source of life, you want a healing? Great. The source of love, you want to find that somebody. You want to do the thing. You want to see your dreams come true. You want to have it happen, whatever it happens to be for you. What you want is this relationship to work out. And so today we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what is the point and what is not the point and how to get there. And I'm going to give you a secret for how this works that is in no way a secret. You with me? That is our agenda for the day. And I use that word, prosperity, but it's a funny word. It's a charged word. You know what I mean? People bring a lot of meaning to it. And some of the meaning isn't super healthy, super constructive, I got to say. I am a child and a grandchild of ministers. Weird, right? And so for me, my earliest recollections of the word prosperity are hearing ministers in my family say this sentence. You ready? This is inside baseball here, boys and girls. This sentence, hey, giving is down. We should do a prosperity talk. And that sounds ominous and almost a little bit nefarious, but it's not. It's totally okay. Because the truth is, if we're not doing the thing, if we're not in the flow, then clearly we need to talk about it. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think the thing that's wrong for that for me was that I internalized that idea that prosperity was this thing that you kind of let it run until things start to squeak a little bit and then you go back into prosperity. Like it's a process, like it's about the rules, like one of those prodigal sons. That was the idea that I had about prosperity. And it works a little bit until it doesn't. Have you had that experience? Sometimes that is the relationship that people have with the divine, with spirit. Sometimes the relationship is, I'm going to go do my thing, and then I'm going to do it until the wheels fall off, and then I'm going to go back into it. And it works until it doesn't. Have you had that experience? Everyone has had that experience. It's okay. But ask yourself, is this thing, being fun, is prosperity, is wholeness, is spirituality, use the word you want to use. Is this a machine that I put thoughts and prayers into at the beginning and then I crank the crank and then good stuff comes out at the end? Is that my relationship with God? Because for a lot of people it is. And it's across denominations. I show up, do the thing, participate in the ritual, pay up sometimes, learn the right affirmations, do the hokey pokey, turn myself around. That's what it's all about. Do the thing, and God stuff comes out at the end. But ask yourself, is this a really healthy relationship? Is this my relationship with love? Can you imagine being in a loving relationship with someone going, I did all the things, you have to love me now? Yuck. Well, everything's like everything. If that's the relationship we have with other people, that's the relationship we have with God, and vice versa, and it can get better than that. That works until it doesn't. It can get better than that. Let me ask that a different way. Think about your spiritual heroes, the teachers and the way showers, the people that you look up to, those people who are visions for you. My go-to guy is Jesus, but it's okay if that's not yours. Who do you go to? And it's okay to have a bunch of them. Who's your main thing? Who's the person you think about? Ask yourself about their life and their teachings. What about their life and teachings makes you think that the point of all of this is a Maserati? Guys, if you gather around, it's right there in the Bible. Guys, if you gather around and you learn these things, I'll teach you how to get a cool car. Now look, let me be very clear about this. There's nothing wrong with toys. Toys are fun. I love toys. But they're not the point. They're a byproduct. They're not the point. They're not why we do what we do. Manifestation, and this is important, manifestation is a byproduct. It's not the point. And it's a funny thing to study something that is a byproduct. It makes you not fun, and that's the opposite of prosperity. People say to me sometimes, I'm an excellent manifester. And I'm like, that's a weird flex, but okay, because the thing is, everyone is an excellent manifester. Every thought and every word and every action you have creates stuff. The universe is expanding and growing in beauty and complexity and wonder all the time. Of course you're an excellent manifester. It's like saying, I'm an excellent breather. I'm an excellent processor of nutrients into fuel for my body. Good. Good for you. But let's talk about something important. Manifestation is a byproduct. In the Bible, God is referred to as creator. You've heard that. But maybe everybody in this room doesn't know. Maybe everybody watching doesn't know that God is referred to as creator in the Bible a tiny, tiny handful of times. The vast majority of times that God is talked about, God is not talked about as creator, but rather as liberator. Moses, for example, will say something like, you know God, the guy that got us out of Egypt? Liberator. Over and over again. God's role is not important in terms of creation. God's role is important in terms of liberation, whether you're trying to get out of Egyptian slavery or Roman tyranny, or for us, if you're trying to get free from fear, lack, doubt, loneliness. The story is a story of liberation. God's job is as liberator. Creation is a byproduct, not the important thing. And if you try to study something that already happens naturally, well, have you ever tried to breathe? It's weird, right? It's easier when you let it go. Everything is like everything. My job, your job, our job is to get out of the way of the manifestation and focus on something more interesting, like setting somebody free. That is our job. And everything else happens naturally. Now, I recognize that that means a different definition of how this whole thing works. And it's not something that everybody has been taught. It's not the popular idea of the thing to do. You ever watch like a doomsday prepper show? I'm not recommending it. But you know the shows? I have gathered enough beef jerky to survive the apocalypse, or whatever. You laugh, but that's basically the plot of every episode. And there are people who you see on the shows who are genuinely pleased that they've got a barbed wire fence and they've got a shotgun and they've got a thing and they're ready for the pandemic or the thing or the zombie apocalypse or something really horrible like bell bottoms coming back or whatever it is. And they're ready, man. And to them, that's prosperity. And we snicker at that and think how unusual, and that's just something on TV. But yeah, remember what happened with toilet paper the last time there was a pandemic? This is a popular idea, my friends, but it's not a healthy one. And it's something that we can work on together because, once again, we are all in this together. If my definition of prosperity takes away someone else's ability to flourish, it's not going to work. Because we are all in this together. Prosperity is a matter of understanding that I am not the source of good in my life. It doesn't come from me. And I'm not the destination. I'm not where this ends. So my prosperity has got to be less about I'm going to do for me and mine and more to do with something like service. To quote the gospel of Bob Dylan, you got to serve somebody. That's how this works. And when we let it, it just happens naturally. The whole thing happens naturally. One of my favorite parts of that prodigal son story is when he is living with the pigs and things cannot possibly get any worse, and I identify, I've been there, don't try this at home. When he has his I could have had a V8 moment, the Bible says, depending on the translation you like, the Bible says something like, and he came to himself. He woke up. Nobody told him. He just remembered who he was. You want proof that this happens naturally? You want proof that humanity is inherently, basically, essentially good? It's this. Are you ready? Husks don't taste good. You and I will get to a point where we're done feeling bad and we get over it. Sometimes it takes a minute, and if that's your journey, that's okay. I'm here for you. Let's work on it together. But one way or another, you will get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you'll grow. Isn't that beautiful? It happens naturally. Here's the thing that I want us to remember together. We are, all of us, swimming in an ocean of good, of love, of beauty, of truth, of power, of freedom. The whole thing is all around us all the time. We are swimming in it. And yet, Sometimes it feels easy to be a thirsty fish going, where's the water? Our job is to find a way to remember that we are swimming in the first place. And if we can just remember that, everything else will work. So the question becomes, how do we do that? How do we agree with it? How do we internalize it? People say, well, what's the book I read? What are the affirmations that I memorize? What's the trick? What's the secret password to God's clubhouse? And I don't know where you went to Sunday school, but it's possible that you were raised with the idea that if I don't get this exactly right, I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm here for you. Let's work through that. Because this happens naturally. And you know what it feels like. Think with me about a time that maybe you fell in love and you knew it. Think with me about a time that maybe a doctor put a little baby in your arms. Think with me about a time when you realized, I don't have to work here anymore. Think with me about a time that you realized, you know what, this is my favorite song. Think with me about a time you saw something beautiful and you knew it, when you heard something true and you felt it. Think about even the negative times when you were awake in the middle of the night worrying and you thought you were the only person in the whole world who was awake. When it wasn't going to work out and you didn't know what to do, and then all of a sudden something clicked. Think about those times that told you who you were. Where did you feel that? Was it out there in the world somewhere? Was it manifestation? Or was it something more like agreement? This is happening in here, and I agree with it. My name is so-and-so, and I approve this message. That's what "and so it is" means, by the way. I approve this message. I agree. Can you agree? That's the question. What I am talking about in a roundabout kind of way is gratitude. The secret that I told you about at the beginning that is in no way a secret, the thing that makes all this work, the thing that reminds us that we're swimming is this. Thank you. That's it. Now that sounds funny because I don't know how you were raised, but it's very, very possible that you were told to be a good little boy or a good little girl. You say please at the beginning and you say thank you at the end. And thank you is the period at the end of that sentence. But here we are talking about thank you happening at the beginning of something. And that might seem weird, but that's the only way that this works. Remember with me that love is not a machine that I do something at the beginning, I get the thing at the end, and then I say thank you, repeat as necessary. This is not conditioner. We're not rinsing, we're not repeating. It is more like a thing that we live in. It is more like a state of being. It is more like a remembrance. Who you are. That's what we're talking about. Towards the end of the prodigal son story, when the younger son comes home, his father says something funny. Or I thought it was funny when I first read the story as a little kid. The father says, "Put my ring on his finger." That sounds weird. They're not getting married. It's not that kind of family. What's going on? Well, maybe you know this and maybe you don't. But in that time period, putting the ring on the finger was like saying, you now speak for the family. It's like an American Express black card. It's a blank check. You are part of this. You get to speak for the family. You're part of this. And when you see me, I have this ring on. I wear it all the time. When I put it on in the morning, I say, I belong to God, because I remember that when I'm doing my job right, I speak for this family. That's me. I do this to remind myself that this is what I am a part of. And sometimes I need to remember. Sometimes it ain't easy. I get that. I'm working on it. But that's how I work on it. I encourage you to find a way to work on it for you. Find a way to remember whose family you speak for, what you're a part of. Remember that Thanksgiving is a state that we live in. Get good at this, because it is the key to everything. And I know people go, well, you know, I don't like to take compliments. I can't do that. Work on it. It might not be easy. I get that. We've been through stuff. I get that. Work on it. It is the key to everything. Taking a compliment doesn't come later. It comes now. Work on it. I will help you in any way I can. Work on it. Because here's the deal, like I said before, everything is like everything. If I cannot take a compliment from another person, how in the world am I going to see myself as a loved child of God? You can't. Everything's like everything. How I treat that other person is how I treat God. So work on it. I'll put that another way. If you can't say thank you for a good parking space, do not expect bigger miracles. We build our capacity to receive by participating in this. Work on it. But here's the other thing. When you give somebody a present, what do you need in return? You want a thank you note? Is it Emily Post time? Do you need that? Do you need a show? Do you need somebody to go, I am not worthy of the socks that you have bestowed upon me? It sounds like my grandma would want. That's not cool. What do you need? The best way that someone can show you that they are grateful for the thing that you gave is if you see them using what you gave them. The best way to express your gratitude is to use what you have been given. So ask yourself, whatever step you are on this wonderful journey of life that we are all on together, how can I use what I have been given to set somebody free? Because you are both brothers in that story, but you know what else? You are also the dad. It is your job to find a way to put your arm around somebody, to say, you know what? It's okay. Yeah, that thing you did, not so great. I'm not saying gloss over that. But love. Show someone that they are loved. Show someone that they are forgiven. Because we give first. Use the gifts that you have been given to set somebody free. Because after all, freedom is a choice.